you know, we would come across people who would just be like, wait, Hawaii rap? And like, what? Like, you know what I mean? And like, I kind of, like, sometimes I would almost get like some form of acceptance because like I was a black dude, but they thought they would just assume since I was a black dude, like, oh, okay, you're from the mainland and like you're here visiting doing a show. I'd be like, no, fam, I live in Ever Beach.
Yeah.
And so then when that happened, I'd be like, what? So you're a rapper out here? Like, and, you know, so like, did you have like a support base, or like where did you find that?
Well, definitely the support base always like started from home. Like,
right.
I was lucky that my mom and my dad supported it first.
Yeah.
And, you know, my dad, you know, being a boxer and like coming up the way he did, he understood that, you know, the journey, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? But, so like for them, the biggest thing was to have support from them. That was big. And then also the family. And that's why I always like made sure my music, I kept it real because I don't want to get my card pulled by Andy. Because, you know, back in high school, you know, we had those moments. We had those moments of, you know, just feeling it out. But, and I just kept my music a certain way. And, you know, there was support from the community. And that's really where the base was, you know, I got to give a shout out to the community of Nanakuli because I've always gotten love back at home. Dope. Even though I didn't go to like school there, like I was born in Hawaii, moved away from my dad's boxing career when we were 5, and but I would be back here every summer. All my mom, dad, everybody graduated from Nanakuli except for me and my sister. You know what I mean? So the community was, you know, always gave support. Luckily, I gotta give like it's because of guys like BET who were in Nanakuli first. You know, doing the music thing. Chris Styles was going hard. I had a good path that was already blazed before me, and I owe it to those guys. Yeah. So there was a acceptance there, but then there was always like that weird thing, like, you know, like you said, like you're black, but you're from Hawaii. You know what I mean? You live here. Yeah. There was always like that thing, like I said earlier in the interview, like
you mentioned,
how come you rapping? You like be black? You like be popolo? Yeah. It's like, you know, a lot of people don't know what the hip hop culture is outside of like what they see on mainstream. They don't know. I mean, you guys are part of Zulu. You know, you see how the roots, you know, going back to New York, it wasn't just black. It was Latinos. It was, you know, even like the white folks getting down. Like, you know, it was a bigger thing, the culture in itself. So, I mean, just having to break that barrier outside of Nanakuli, and then also doing the kind of music that I was doing, like real, like I wanted to make music that sounded like what being from Hawaii felt like. Yeah. You know, I didn't feel that or find that slogan or like that mission statement up until like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like something so simple. I was looking for the, you know, Combine Classic was always my thing, but then I couldn't define it. And that's really what it is. Make music that sounds like what being from Hawaii feels like. Yeah. So like, you know, you're in Houston, you're hearing that chopped and screwed, or you're not even in Houston, you hear that chopped and screwed, and you feel like you're like just turn the corner of the blades, you know what I mean? Right. You hear Mobb Deep or Biggie, and you feel like, you know, you're in New York. You hear like Wayne or like, you know, like West Coast, you hear Snoop, Dre,
palm trees and shit.
Yeah, you feel it there. So that's what I wanted to do, was do that here. And the funny thing was, like, it was accepted to my people who knew me. But then like outside of like that, it was getting teased on like the internet, and like people were giving me a hard time, and it wasn't too crazy, but like, you know, people still give me the pushback. Yeah. You know? And the crazy thing is that when I was, shout out to Devious, rest in peace. You know, I wouldn't be where I'm at without this guy. But I had gone through a bad label deal or like a situation, and he pretty much rescued me from it, and he gave me a place to record. I was out at Kaneohe Marine Base, and I mean, they had some monsters roll through there, like from Atlanta, Chicago, and he just like put me through like the grind, you know what I mean? A different kind of grind. Now I have all these different mentalities, all these guys, you know, and then I had to like prove my spot, and I was like, I feel like I was representing for Hawaii in there, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then it gave me good exposure to outlooks, you know, different points of views. But then from there, I had never really performed. You know what I mean? This is actually before the Island Sound.
Yeah.
This is pre the Island Sound. I was rocking with Devious.
Yeah.
So we had a little group called Versatile, and I had never performed before, you know, since high school. And then Mo Love had this, rest in peace to Mo Love too.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Mo Love had this promotion over at, it used to be called Panama Hattie's, right above Dixie Grill in Aiel.
Oh shit.
And he had a promotion there, and like, you know, you could perform and stuff. And I was literally the only local guy up in there, all military, all military,
Yeah.
black, white, Hispanic. There's no Polynesians, no not even Filipinos. You know what I mean? Like, and I went in there and I performed. I had a couple songs and I performed, and like at first, like people were like, "Oh, who's this dude?" Because it was all like the military cast performing,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the beat would change. But then like being from the different regions, they knew how like their independent artists from that region
Would sound.
would sound, but like the impact they have, like, oh, that's our guy, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like, you know, like I said in Houston, like Paul Wall, Slim Thug, all those guys, like that's our guy. You know, West Coast Snoop and Dre, like that's our guy. So here I was, they don't know anything outside of what's going on at Panama Hattie's. They don't go into the country, they don't go into these local places. So they treated me like that. Oh, this is Hawaii's guy, like, and they're like rocking with me, and I'm like rocking these shows. Panama Hattie was like packed to the max.
Yep.
And
No shit.
like they didn't understand some of the stuff I was saying, but they were rocking with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Dope.
I think my first song was like, "It's Hawaii, homeboy, and we ready to ride, and we ride
Yeah.
like this." And they were like, we went from like some crazy South stuff bouncing, and like my song comes on, and they're like rocking with me, and like that was
Yeah.
like the first time I got that kind of love. You know what I mean? And it was at Panama Hattie's, and it wasn't even for like my community. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It was for the military community.
Yeah.
You know, the cool thing was that they're exposed for different regions are
other
exposed
regions.
to exposed to their hip hop stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my first experience with it, and that's when I felt like I was able to break that feeling. You know, like it's hard, you know, hard for me, and I couldn't do it. And that's when the whole BET situation came around, and it, you know, everything
There's
started
something
popping off.